Thank you so much for speaking to me. This is uh, so emotional, but I wanted to go back. There is a scene within the kitchen where there's a hug. Both guys hug each other. What does that hug kind of symbolize for both the characters?
Well, hey Dana, thanks for talking to us this morning. Speaking for JP, the hug symbolizes, you know, what every parent has to go through at a certain point. I have a two boys myself, so there's a point in a parent's bringing up of their child where you have to let go, but at the same time, you always want your child to know that you are there for them should they need you, should they misstep, should they need to turn around and reach back for help. I'm there for you. And I love it because it's a very positive moment between, a young black man and his son, uh, just trying to mend fences, try to come back from being estranged for so long, and just trying to show that, there is possibly another path. And just that, the love, no matter what choices, each person makes, there's always that love between them.
And for Alicia?
That was great. I'm sorry, your mic sort of went off when you were asking me the question on my end. So can you ask me the question one more time so I can give you a great
Yes.
answer?
I was saying for there is that scene where you both hugged each other. What did that symbolize for DMac?
I think that DMac is finally starting to warm up to his dad and appreciate and develop a deeper sort of affection for him, which he didn't have at first. When they first introduced DMac and his dad, they introduced DMac by shooting up his dad's club. And so I think now these things have come full circle where DMac's anger towards his dad is sort of being resolved now.
What I have a question for Lucian. What I wanted to know with DMAC is there's an argument between him and his friend where basically he said you've been an extra mouth to feed. According, basically, you don't carry your weight. And so I was wondering what reflection does DMAC find some kind of truth within that?
Who said I was an extra mouth to, who said that DMAC was an extra mouth to feed?
It was your friend. It was in the apartment when you went to go do the re-up.
Marshall said that
Yes.
DMAC was an extra mouth to feed.
Yes.
And you said how does DMAC take that?
Not only how did he take that, but what reflection do you feel that that is right? Because he's been cruising by. Some could make that argument.
Mm, yeah, I think that he has been causing a lot more trouble. But if you think about it, a lot of his plans worked. Even though they were risky and dangerous, he's been added to the table. They pulled off that lick where he made all of that money. They pulled off a couple licks, him and Marshall, where they made a lot of money. So that's my take on it. I think DMAC is doing it. I think DMAC's pulling his weight.
One of the other questions that I have is for Anthony as JP. There's so many moments. It just made me sad. But he goes and confronts Jenard, and he does say, you've messed with the wrong, and then he uses a slur. How much do you feel that his sexuality kind of played into his insecurity?
His insecurity about what?
Is it about not just how people see him? Because he could have
Um,
said, "Oh, you mess with the wrong person. You mess with the wrong father."
yeah, yeah. I think his sexuality, the biggest hurdle for JP with that, I think JP is comfortable with his sexuality. I think where the problem comes up for JP is that it is the reason why, initially Darnell's DMAC's mom soured the relationship between them and kind of poisoned his mind to me as his father and created like maybe this hateful narrative between or for DMAC about his father. But I think JP going after Jenard was more about what happened in a scene earlier when it's Tommy, JP, and DMac comes in the house and he's thanking his Uncle Tommy for standing up for him. And JP clocks that. And I think that really had a big effect on him. Like, it should be me protecting you. You're my son. I shouldn't have to rely on even your uncle doing that role. So I think him confronting Jenard, I mean, and it's that moment. And it's also, Jenard's been messing with DMac since season one. He was responsible for him getting shot. And then, DMac or in Jenard and JP have a little moment um, at the end of season one. Very brief, but I think in that moment, the seed was planted that JP wanted to get at Jenard. So when he finally does, it was just that tipping point, and he did what he did.
So then also for Lucian, was wondering, obviously he doesn't know fully what has happened to JP, but if you can tease or say, do you feel that he will rely more on Tommy, or is it some sort of guilt? Because the huge theme has been every time like Tommy has stepped into someone's lives, someone has died behind that.
That's true. I think that DMac's reaction to DMac's potential reaction to what has happened to, because right, he doesn't know what happened to his father yet. I think that grief will be a big part of it. Anger, regret. I think that going forward, you'll see DMac play with a lot of the negative emotions all in one bunch. So, after losing somebody close, I think that's a very human reaction too. You know what I mean? To feel if somebody close to you died, somebody that you love died, and they died sort of because of you, because of something that you had going on, I think you will feel regret, anger, wrath, grief, sadness, all of those things bundled up into one. And that's really what I'm excited about. It's funny to say that I'm excited about this, but I'm excited to show the performance, like bringing all of those emotions into my future performances in the next episodes. I'm excited for the fans to see that, you know?
Mhm. And so for Anthony, I was wondering, what kind of uncle would he have been had he lived to see his nephew or niece, his nephew?
Wow, that's a great question, Dane. I never thought about that. But I think he would have been a great uncle. He would have loved to see his brother Tommy now as a father and how that changes a man. And I think as Tommy states in the episode, I think Tommy would have been hitting up JP for advice on fatherhood, and I think it would have brought Tommy and JP closer together. And then, it's all about family for Tommy. Tommy is a lot of things, but I think, at the core of it, Tommy loves family, and he will do whatever he can to protect family and the ones that he loves. Unfortunately, he is usually the rock that, family members get broken against. But there is a love that Tommy has for family and for being a part of a family, going all the way back to the original show. So for Tommy to become a father and to have, his nephew and his brother and now his son there, I think that would have just formed a bond that Tommy has always wanted and has always sought. But yeah, JP would have been a dope uncle.
I believe so too.
He would have taught him
But
music and just all kind of stuff,
I
and
agree.
it would have been cool to see Tommy actually with a snuggie on.
so for both of you, I wondered if you guys could have that. You had the last scene together, but what do you feel was something that you wish you would have said to each other?
Go ahead, Lucian. I want to hear this.
Am my microphone on? I
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish that DMAC could have expressed more gratitude towards his dad, and even his little things. Like, it was scenes where JP would tell DMAC he loved him, but DMAC wouldn't say it back. And I think that was intentional because, young teenage boys are already, you're going through so many changes as a teenager. And so handling emotions, battling emotions as a teenage boy, it sort of gets, it's sort of hard to express those emotions when you're coming up, when you're trying to figure it out, especially somebody in DMAC's position. But I wish that he would have been mature enough to tell his father how he appreciated him and how he cared about him, because I think that even in my life now, I could see how if I lost my father as a teenager, that would be a big regret of mine if I never, told my dad how much I loved him. So I wish he would have been able to tell his dad how much he loved him and, how much he appreciated him and all of those things because they had a sort of a rocky relationship. Last season he cussed his dad out and he just got back cool with his pops. I wish he would have had more of a reconciliation time.
Okay.
And for me, it's just more I love yous, more hugs. DMac and JP missed a lot of that. And, again, as a father, there's nothing more important than letting your child know that they are loved and that physical contact, which, especially with boys, I think it goes away sort of unconsciously sometimes as the kid gets older. You go from picking up your son and throwing him around and hugs and kisses on the mouth and all of that stuff to, as the kid gets older, that stuff kind of goes away. But, JP, I felt was trying to make up for lost times and a lot of that. That's why in that last scene between us, it's like, all right, man, I know how you feel about it, but yo, come in, give me a hug. I want that physical contact. And I'm glad that, Lucien and I were able to put that on screen to show, this father and son that come from that started out together and then had a big, long, rocky stretch, trying to come back and reconcile and find a path back to each other and show that there is still potential for love. So yeah, just more I love yous and more hugs.
Well, thank you both so much for speaking to me. I'm so sad what happened with JP.
Man, me
But thank
too.
All right, thank you.
Thank
thank
you.
you.